That's right.
Welcome to number 5 episode and our first podcast with a guest.
Yes.
And we just went balls to the wall with this
We
guest.
did. We did.
Again, I would just want to thank everybody who was part of the Laugh to End Alzheimer's event.
That
We
was our
raised
episode 4.
live version.
Yeah, live version.
And we raised over $10,000 to end Alzheimer's. So it was awesome. Kate, you would have been so proud. We had 165 women, about 12 intentional men that were there. We were on stage with 3 hilarious women just
Yep.
talking about womanhood and the funny of it. So
Amazing.
which
Yeah.
kind of rolls into our topic today. But let's introduce Kate.
Yes.
And thank you for hanging in there with our technical difficulties and all that. But I know Kate because I was part of Kate's program. Even before you rebranded to the Good Life Institute, some of you have already responded like, I can't wait to hear this one because they got to hear Kate at the Greater Vancouver Chamber Inspire Her conference in March, which was awesome. And so I'm just tickled that you made time to come and be on our podcast. So we're not Mel Robbins yet. In 3 months we should be there.
3 months.
But yeah. But I just think the world of you. You've changed my life going through your program. I was very nervous about franchising because I didn't want to create this monster and this mess of a life that I had worked so hard to get my balance back and keep that. And you just spoke to me. That's what I was facing. And it's such a hot topic. And it was just monumental to me. And Kate, this is Bud.
This is our other
Yeah.
Hey,
guest.
bud.
Yeah.
Mascot. Every
Yes.
podcast
Yeah.
needs a
Yes.
mascot.
The kitty Bud. And
And-
he really likes me.
Kate, I would love, just because I don't have the background that Natalie does with you, I would love to hear a little bit about your journey getting here, especially in regards to our topic today of overworked and overwhelmed, but yet still successful.
Yeah.
And where do we draw that line between working hard and putting in the hours we feel we need to, and then burnout?
Yeah. No,
So,
for sure.
yeah.
Cool. Well, first of all, thank you, ladies, for having me on the podcast. I'm honored to be the first official guest. So hopefully I'll set a high bar. We'll see what happens.
Oh, I'm sure you will. Have you been on Mel Robbins' podcast yet, Kate?
Not yet. But has she been on mine? No, I'm just kidding.
Oh.
So, no.
Mic drop. Yeah, Kate is amazing. Okay, Kate, tell us a
Thanks,
little bit more
ladies.
about your story.
Well, no, I love what you all are doing. I mean, I think, for me, what my journey and my story is really, I think so many women, like where we set out in the world to do big things. We want to live a big life. We want to have an impact.
Yeah.
And I found as I was going through that, those stages myself, as I was building my career, I kept going like, oh yeah, I'm just going to get to here. Then I'll get to here. And then I'll get to here. And at some point, this is all going to get easier. Right.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you all, but all of a sudden I was like, have I been tricked? Like, this is getting harder, like monumentally harder. It's not getting easier.
Yeah.
So I really was not willing to give up what so many women who went before me had to give up to have, a really big career. And I was like, I'm not going to give up all that stuff.
What did
So-
what did those sacrifices look like to you that you would have had to make?
Oh my gosh. Well,
You were
health,
going
first
to.
of all. The big one for me I was
Yeah.
facing was health. Like
Yeah.
when I went and talked to my mentors, like women who are 15, 20 years ahead of me, they were not in great health. They weren't able to really get around. And I was looking at like, am I going to retire and not be able to actually like climb a mountain or like go do
Enjoy.
anything? Like
Yeah.
that trade-off between wealth and health, I was not willing to at all.
Did you
I
already
really-
feel that hitting you when you exited corporate America? Did you already feel that?
I exited corporate America the first time when I was 33, and I wouldn't say I felt like broken or whatever, but I definitely felt like I should be able to go to the gym 4 or 5 days a week. Like, this is ridiculous.
And you weren't.
Yeah, I was like, I would either do
yeah.
like 3 months of getting up at 4 a.m. and going for a run, and then I'd have 3 months of just eating like large pizzas and stressing out with wine. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it was just.
You
rubber
also
band.
had the mortality of your mom too, and
Yeah.
what that brought
Yes.
at a young
yes.
age, dying at 57.
That's true. So that has always been sort of I don't know what you call that, but something in my life that I've always paid attention to. So my mom died at age 57. She had given up her career back when, way before women could have careers, to be a homemaker and have a family. And so she had just gotten to that point where like her girls were grown. We were out of the house.
Yeah.
She had her own group of girlfriends. She was starting to travel, and boom, cancer. She was gone at age 57.
Wow.
And I just saw the regret, and I was like, I'm not going to regret this life. And so I had this cool job that I loved. I was traveling all over the world. In many ways, I had my daughter. I was doing a lot of things I loved, but it just kept coming at such a cost of just exhaustion.
Yeah.
I was always just like, I felt like my emotional roller coaster. I was just like, if you just like looked at me the wrong way on the street, I was like, what? I just was.
Was the cortisol running high in your
My
system?
gosh. Yes. Yes. And I remember one time I asked my boss, I was like, when do I get a break? Like, why am I always teed up for the next major thing? And she was just like, because you'll do it.
Yes.
And I was like, oh,
yeah, I'm guessing that we're talking to an overachiever.
Yes.
totally.
Someone who is very
Totally.
ambitious, right?
Yeah.
You want to see results. You want to drive results.
For sure.
And so that's that rat race that we get into too
Yeah,
when we are high achievers.
we
right?
are. And I think even women who aren't necessarily high achievers, like I have friends who are like, look, I don't need the career, Kate. Like you go do whatever, but they want to be really great moms, or they want to be really great in their community, or they want to be great
Right.
partners. And they're also overwhelmed. They're also like, how do you do all of this stuff as a woman and actually get to enjoy any of it? And I think so many of us were served up a model like I was from the baby boomer generation, where it was like, work hard for 25 years and then you're going to get retirement on a golf course or whatever, like you'll have retirement at age 55. Remember when that was the retirement age?
Right.
And I think so many of us are still operating, and our business structures are operating under that same premise, but that's not reality anymore. You don't have a corporation that's going to take care of you for 25 years. You're not going to retire at age 55. We don't have the neighborhoods and the communities where, growing up, my mom was like, get lost, on the weekends. And like, we went out and played and you didn't know. Like now, your kids are like, when are you going to wake up and play with me? And you're like, oh my gosh. It's a different world, right?
It is a different world.
Yeah.
And success for me as an entrepreneur and a business owner, and Mindy's a business owner now too,
Nice.
is to enjoy life through my career.
Yeah.
Like I want the space to be able to breathe and not just be pounding it out, but being very efficient with my time on what I'm doing and focusing on that and then letting it go. Like on Monday, I checked in with work a little bit, but to be honest, my team doesn't know this. I just had a me day in my house and it was fantastic. I just got so many boxes checked, and not just to check them, just for me, just for the pleasure of just stopping and getting organized. And my mom was always, when we were going in high school, grade school, when she saw us becoming overwhelmed, she'd be like, take the day off school,
Wow.
get some rest, get organized. And really, it was brilliant because when you're pushing too hard, you need to stop and take the day, and then you're so much better off.
Yeah. Yeah. I want your mom.
I know,
Yeah,
right?
she's I think
My mom was-
as a guest, it'll be hilarious.
Yeah.
My mom was like, stop your complaining, get back to school.
Isn't that funny? I called her. She's getting funnier. I called her on the way here, and she goes, this is how she answered. She goes, Kathy's not taking any calls right now.
She's talking in third person.
We need we need to adopt that.
Yeah.
Mindy's
Yeah.
not taking any calls right now.
Yeah.
Kate, was there a moment, that aha moment for you, that, like, for our listeners, what does that feel like if there was, and how do you know that you need to change what you're doing?
I think no matter whatever you're calling success, again, I don't care if if you are staying home with your kids. I've done that before. I did that for several years, and you are like momming to your fullest potential. Whatever you're trying to be successful at, success should support you, not enslave you, right?
I love that.
Yep.
Yeah.
And when
that's
you
great.
start hearing yourself saying, but I have to, I should, I have to, for me also, it was just this emotional roller coaster. Like we all are going to have bad days. We're all going to have we're all going to have emotional outbursts. We're all going to have sad days. But I just felt like I was constantly like roller coaster up. Oh my gosh, look at me. Happy, happy. Cratering roller coaster down, roller coaster up. And I thought, I am going to die of a heart attack if I don't get some emotional consistency in my life. And I just felt like there was always these really high highs and these really low lows. And I just wanted something that was a little more calm, a little more consistent. Now, I love doing big things. I am ambitious. I love pushing my edges. But now I've learned how much of that is really exploration, possibility. I have the time and energy to do this. Let's go push an edge. Yeah. And how much of that was me just thinking, okay, I got to do this. I got to do it. I got to do it. And it's like, do you really, Kate? Like, do you know? And I didn't have the ability to step back and really understand that I had options. I felt like I was compelled and this was the only way to live. And it was exhausting. I couldn't do it.
And do you feel like your body kind of tells you when it's like, you really don't want to do this? Because we're dreading it. Or you can feel physical sensations. I don't know if you have that.
Of course.
Oh my God, Bud is so cute in your lap.
Yeah.
You have to move the
It's just like,
look at this.
Give me the mic.
Picture perfect.
So awesome.
Yeah, I would love to hear what you would recommend to people who may not be in a financial situation where they can just walk away from something that they know is bad for them. And this can be a conversation about relationships, work, like so many different aspects of our lives. But work in general, motherhood included, you can't just walk away.
No.
So what tips and tools would you give people who don't have the financial freedom to leave their job right now in the market that it's in?
Right.
With the fear of, I don't know if I'll get another job if I leave this one right now.
For sure. Well, and I think really, Mindy, you're talking to about 95% of the population. Like there's very few people who could really walk away without some sort of, I've moved from the frying pan into the fire. You know, I've traded this madness for now I'm fretting about, going through my savings or whatever. So I don't think walking away is the answer. And so often we're told, walk away, start a side gig, whatever. And it's just like, I don't need more work. I don't need a side gig. I'm tired as it is. Right. Yeah. And so I did walk away and then I came back into corporate. And of course, now I have my own company. But what that walking away taught me was that a lot of the things I was struggling with went with me. In other words, I walked away to go live on an island. Like, how peaceful could that be? But nope, I still had to work and I still had to make sure my house was clean a certain way. And I still had to, help all these people. And I was always doing. And I thought, and my husband was like,
Castaway Island, huh?
Yeah. And he was like, we're on an island, like sit down.
Yeah.
And I was like, I can't sit down.
And you were thinking about, I should open a surf shop. That just cracks me up because I can see my mentality. That's what I would do. I always say, God, I want my sister's life, where I can just do, my day can be however I want. And everyone goes, Nat, you'd be fine for 2 weeks. And then you would be,
I was going to say 2 days.
opening a surf shop.
Yes. And you have to learn, you guys were talking about your body. Like you have to physically learn how to relax. Like most of us are not taught that as kids. If you think about how we parent, it's, why didn't your bed get made before you went out to play? Why didn't your homework get done before you watch TV? We're a do society. Like very infrequently does someone say, look at you, Mindy, you laid in the backyard all day daydreaming. I'm so proud of you. What did you imagine? What did you create? How did you nobody tells you that. They're like, hey, what are you doing laying in the backyard all day?
Then when we are still in a society that doesn't see that as the norm.
I think part of what you have to do, again, no matter what it is that fills up your time during the day, that's driving you to do so much, is really step back from those expectations and go, what is authentic to you? Like, I had to finally go, what is authentic to me? Like, that was a big deal to move to an island. Like, everybody was like, no, do not walk away from your career. This is the stupidest thing you could have done. And I think you don't have to go do something that huge, but really, do you really need to take your kids to all 7 of their different activities? Does your child really need to be an elite, blah, 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 whatever? Like really step back and go, what is quality of life for me
Mm-hmm.
and for my family, not what society's taught me to do, because it's obviously not working. Like more than 70% of people are burning out and want to quit their job. So let's not follow the pack. Let's just sit down and go, what works for you? And if your kids are really loving those 7 different activities, great. Let's find more creative ways to get them there versus you being the only chauffeur. If you really love your job, but you have a difficult boss, cool. Then let's read up on how to deal with difficult bosses instead of complaining about your boss, right?
Yeah.
If you love your job, but it's hard to lead, leadership's hard.
Yeah.
Leadership is hard and nobody teaches you how to do it. Everyone's like, why aren't they teaching you how to lead? I'm like, nobody ever does.
This is an advertisement for Mindy.
Yeah, that's what I do.
Good. So
Right,
take
right,
some
right.
time and invest in learning how to be a great leader and get that monkey off your back. And that's what I never did. I just I call it like, I threw my body at every bomb. It was like, bomb, I'll get it. Leadership's hard. It's okay. I'll do it. And I was such a lone wolf. It just didn't occur to me that I could actually invest in, whether your investment is thousands of dollars or hundreds of dollars or $2. Like, take the time to step back and stop doing long enough to go, where's the biggest pain point in my life? Where am I getting the most friction? Solve for that, habituate it, give yourself some time to get used to that, and then move on and solve the next thing. And I was just so busy, like playing whack-a-mole, like all day long. I was just keeping all the little things like the water at bay, but I was never solving for the leaky boat. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a great analogy.
And I feel like when you do a change like that and you say, stay there for a little bit, it can feel uncomfortable. I always love the analogy of disciplining your children. It doesn't feel great to put boundaries up or discipline, but you have to do it.
Right.
And so sometimes we start to change something and then we're like, well, this feels yucky. I'm out. Where we have to kind of stay in it and, see what happens. And fun's coming back. Now, one thing, Kate, that I was so surprised about when I took your training, like the first online training that I was supposed to do, it talked about the 7 universal needs of every human.
Yeah.
Which I still talk about all the time. And when people are burned out, I bring it up and how there's 7 universal needs, but we're drawn to 2 or 3 that are really prominent for us. And that you need to daily, weekly, fill those buckets.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would love to hear more about that, Kate.
Sure.
I find that fascinating because I think that's so true. We have these defaults that we go to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Well, for me, I will tell you how it came about is what I was looking for after I burned out and I went to live on the island. I was like, okay, well, this isn't working. I'm not enjoying this either. So here I have the simple life. I'm not happy. I had a more complex, bigger, successful life, like check all the boxes. I wasn't happy. So the beauty of trying both of those different methods and finding out that neither one worked is like, I got to figure something else out. So I was like, how can I have my cake and eat it too? Like, I'm smart. I can figure this out. So I was like, well, what does create well-being? What does create a successful life? Like, what am I looking for? And I just started like writing it down on paper. Like, what would the day feel like? Like, what would I be doing? And it was just this sense of trying to figure that out. My husband's actually the person who invented this sort of needs-based philosophy that Natalie's now learned. But really, when you look at how we're designed to thrive or how we've evolved to thrive, it's not go get a job, make a lot of money, have a family, buy a house, have a retirement fund. Like, those are all modern day sort of constructs. And as we all know, we're doing all those things and it's just getting harder and it's not working. Right. So he's a philosopher and he really figured out, he's like, well, what are we really, we've evolved to do? Well, we've evolved to, obviously we need to take care of our health. Otherwise, you're not going to survive. We need to have some sort of security. In modern day worlds, that's usually money, that puts a roof over our head. Right. So usually health and security, most of us have to some degree. Like, we need to feel like we're doing something valuable. Most of us are in the world, like we're parents or we work someplace, we're doing something that we feel valuable. We have connection, we know that. So those are like the 4 of the 7 that are the most obvious. Where we struggle the most is usually in what we like to call flow or rest. And that is that state where we were just talking about it, like what Natalie did on Monday. Oh my gosh, a lot of people would be like, how dare you leave your team working all day? Or, oh, I want to be the founder of a company. I just want to like lay around on a Monday while my team does all the work, right? And you're like, yeah, well, you didn't see me on Saturday while everyone else had the day off, right? But what you were doing was basically putting yourself into a state of flow. You were saying, I have to mentally disconnect from the day-to-day stress of life. I need to have, we call it time for myself.
Yeah.
But it's not about running around your house doing the dishes or putting, the socks back in the drawer. It's about really disconnecting your mind so you can think more clearly and be more creative.
Yes.
So the reason we teach these 7 needs is it puts you into a state of peak performance. When you can start optimizing those, when you can start making sure that you're actually meeting those 7 needs, now what I can do is I can work an occasional 70 or 80 hour week without being exhausted.
Right.
I can continue to engage my mind after 50 to 55 hours of work during the week, or 50 to 55 hours of momming or whatever you're doing, because you're actually giving yourself biologically what you need to thrive. And so flow is a big one. You could do flow, an app on your phone. Go play Plants vs. Zombies for 5 minutes. You could knit a sweater at night instead of,
that's
like,
funny. Yeah.
Anything that just takes you out of thinking constantly.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's why so many of us like binge on Netflix and drink wine, because it like disconnects you from reality, and then you're in this other reality.
Right.
At some point though, you look back on your life and you're like, my God, I just had 10 years of Netflix. Was that the best thing for me?
Right. Yeah.
So
Bud
if you can,
loves Kate.
Right. Yes.
This is like, this is
Oh.
unbelievable.
Yeah.
Kitty Bobo, I love you,
that's
Kitty
right.
Bobo.
Well, you said something, you said creativity, which when you're not feeling creative, and that is a great sign that you're getting overwhelmed and burnt out. And that is another sign from your body to say, stop.
Yep.
And I did this with one of my employees last week. She's been under a ton of stress, moving, all this stuff. And she's like, I'm just starting to feel a little depressed and overwhelmed, but I'll get through it. I'll push through it. And I said, no. I said, you are taking Friday off. She goes, no, I'm just going to go into the office in the morning. I said, nope. We're not doing this. We'll take the calls. I want you, and permission slip, I want you to do only what feels good.
Yeah.
If you say, does this feel good to me? And you go, no, not really. Don't do it.
Yeah.
But if it's coffee and reading your book in the sun, and that's all you feel good about, then that is all I want you to do, and nothing for nobody else. I said that wrong, but
I get it. Yeah, that's awesome.
and she came back on Monday and she said, that's exactly what I needed. I totally reset, and then I felt like myself again on Saturday.
And Natalie, that's what you needed as her employer, is you needed that refreshed, rested version of her on Monday, not the tired, resentful, exhausted person who comes in on Monday and like they're not working effectively. They're not going to get as much done in an 8-hour day. They may be there for 8 hours.
Yeah.
But I would rather have that person who's excited, loves their life, and they're motivated. And that's who I want to be too. I don't want to be the person who's sitting with a blank screen trying to think of an email to write. Right.
Kate, being that our podcast is really centered around women and empowering women to be their badass selves that we know they all are. Do you feel like this subject is more common among women over men, of that burnout and high achieving, especially trying to get to whatever goal that is? Again, doesn't matter what you do. If you're career driven, if you're at home raising a bunch of toddler ankle biters, like whatever it may be, do you feel like it impacts women differently?
It does impact women differently, and men are using the term burnout now. It's become very common post-COVID, because COVID sort of made it okay to say we're burnt out.
Yeah, that's true.
Typically what men will find, what they will really run into though, is more of like this lack of fulfillment and meaning. Like, I'm doing all this work. Okay, I got to the height of my career, and it's just like, it's so boring. And then you'll see them go out and buy sports cars, or they jump out of airplanes and skydive. And so it's like,
kind of thing, right?
Where's the thrill? Where's the edge? Where's the purpose? Where's the meaning? Where women are like, I'm overwhelmed. I'm exhausted. I just want to check out and have everyone leave me alone. Right. 100%. So it's a little bit different in how men and women experience it, but it's the same thing, which is like, I'm not living my life to my true potential. I'm not enjoying what I've created, basically. Bottom line. I don't care again if you've decided to have 12 children and live in a shoe. I'm not enjoying 12 children and living in a shoe. This sucks. Like, why? You know?
Yeah.
And rather than just sucking it up and like, okay, well, someday they're all going to graduate. It's like, how do you make that a better experience for yourself?
Right now.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For
I
sure.
love that. I think that that's really, really important. And I always feel like women have so much more on them. And I'm not standing on a
Bash,
pedestal,
no. Yeah.
being
Bash
a feminist.
men,
I
no.
love men.
No, yeah.
I need a man in my life.
Yeah.
Couple reasons, but yeah. But I feel like women, you're still the mom most of the time.
Yeah.
And whether you have a full-time career, whether you're working part-time, whatever, and whether you have an awesome spouse and partner, it's still, I'm still hearing from women who have an awesome spouse and partner, like, hey, while you were out, I cleaned I took the garbage out. And it's like,
Yeah.
are we supposed to let's say you have a house cleaner. You're still picking up for the house cleaner.
Yeah. You have to
You're
clean
still
before they
doing
come.
the laundry. You're still doing all of that.
Yeah.
And so it seems like there is a heavy load on women. And for women who want to have a career and go, do great and big things, it can be really challenging.
Yeah.
Unless
I think
you
you have
have a man at home or a partner at home that's really
Yeah.
backing you up, like the traditional.
Yeah. Well, I think keep in mind also, ladies, and anyone listening to this, like, so my job in corporate was a corporate marketer. And so I spent 25 years studying human behavior for the purposes of marketing. So basically what I've spent for the last 15 years is studying the behaviors of success. And you have to remember that women, we are still new to the workplace. Yep. So remember, way back during the years of World War II, we were given permission to work as long as we still did our motherly duties and our household duties.
Yes.
That is still in us.
Yes.
And it doesn't mean that, like, my husband's not like, babe, you didn't do the dishes tonight. Like, there's no way. Like, oh my God. Like, but we're still conditioned. That conditioning still hasn't evolved out of our generations yet, where women are doing the bulk of things at home. And a lot of women, like, we're a bit of control freaks. You know, how many of us reload the dishwasher after our spouse or our kiddo does it? Remake the bed after they do it,
but you're right, Kate. I see that all the time.
Yeah.
And then is just setting ourselves up for that added stress that is completely unnecessary.
And high expectations.
Right.
But I think those high expectations also can come from some resentment as well. So to your point, I love your point, and it reminded me, because I forgot about it, is find the area that's causing the most friction in your life. Is it running the kids around in their activities?
Right.
Is it, a leader? Is it an employee? Whatever it is, and then work to figure that out. Yeah. It's kind of like the low-hanging fruit.
Yeah. Get the biggest problem out of the way, because that's what's going to zap your energy, make you resentful, create the emotional ups and downs. And a lot of times we don't tackle that big pink elephant because we're not sure how to do it. And it seems icky and it seems scary and it seems hard. And then we spend a lot of time doing a bunch of little bitty things that don't really get you where you want to be. And it's like, no, tackle that big thing, so for me, it was my career. I was like, I figured, I was like, I want to have a big career. I want to work at the executive level or be a founder or do something that's going to have big impact. How do I do that and be a great mom? How do I do that and be a great wife? How do I do that and still be a sister? What do you mean?
Like the balance between being a great career woman and being a great mom.
And you have two phases in that, right? Because you've done it one way.
Yeah.
And you've done it another way.
Yeah. Yeah.
You've had chapter 1 and chapter 2.
I have. I've had 2 chapters. So I have a grown daughter who I was single mom. And then and she had a more, I'm going to say, traditional upbringing. So she went to school, then she went to daycare, aftercare. If I had to travel, I always had someone to come in and stay with her. Yeah. And then I have 2 boys who we homeschool. And so it's always different. Like now I have a partner, right? So my husband and I co-homeschool the kids. So that definitely helps, right? If you're solo parenting, that's a little bit tougher to have a job and have an 8-year-old running around your house,
Right,
as
for sure.
everyone discovered during COVID, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So he and I have been able to tap in and tap out. There's been times when he's working and I'm homeschooling, I'm working. There's been times when we both worked and we both homeschooled. Uh-oh,
Whoa.
hold on a second. Where did I go?
Whoa.
Are you there?
I'm here. I'm back. Sorry about that. So it just takes really, I think what we do is like, I sit down every year and go, what are the goals this year? Like
Yep.
some years I'm like, I just miss all my girlfriends. I need more girlfriend time and I'll do more things like that. Others like girlfriends are going to have to wait. I need more time with my kiddos. So I'm very intentional about my time. I'm also very intentional about the quality of my time. So if my kids were to knock on the door right now and be like, Mom, why aren't you hanging out with me? I'd be like, hey, I put that time in over here. Now it's time for you to be patient. And so we always taught our kids about needs as well.
Sure.
And we were very clear that like mom and dad have needs, you have needs. We're all going to work together. So I don't have this guilt when I'm, in my office for 8 or 10 hours because I'm meeting my needs. So I have plenty of energy before and after work.
Yeah.
And B, I'm putting in real intentional time with my kiddos so that when I'm working, like they're cool. Like they know that like they're not vying for my attention or trying to get my attention.
You just said two things
Yeah.
that stood out to me. Number one, being intentional.
Yeah.
And I know it's kind of a buzzword and people say it a lot, but to actually practice intentionality is like,
It's hard.
it's hard to do.
It's hard.
But when you do it, like this is what I'm hyper focused on.
Yeah.
And I'm doing it for a reason with a purpose, right? It's not just doing it to do it.
Yeah.
Right.
And then the other thing you mentioned is the girlfriends. And I wanted to ask you real quickly about that because we know that as we do the things in life to reduce stressors, we also need to continue to build those connections with really positive people who lift us up and who will call us out on our crap. And right, there's a mutual respect. And sometimes for women, it's really hard to find that tribe.
Yeah.
They're lost in their own world and they don't feel like they have enough time or space to make for other people. Yet that's the thing they need the most.
Oh, I remember being there.
What do you have as far as like advice or recommendations for women who just feel like, how do I do this? How do I even start?
When I feel like my whole schedule is so overloaded.
So overloaded. Yeah. I think you have to start again with that intentionality and like, what's the low hanging fruit that's going to give me the most joy? So we talked about what's the low hanging fruit that's the most stressful thing, but what's going to give me the most joy and it's going to be the most meaningful.
Yeah.
So for me, one of the things that I knew was going to be really meaningful to me is that I wanted to have a really high quality relationship with my children. I didn't want like my kids to go off at 18 and be like, oh, thank God I survived my house and like they move away. I wanted to have a close connection with them. So I had to really sit down and look at what is that going to be? How are we going to communicate? How are we going to set up our household? And you don't get it all in 1 year. It's layered over years of learning how to create that. If you want to go out and meet more like-minded women, then it's sort of like dating. You're going to have to kiss some frogs. And I think the problem
That's so true.
that we run into is we want immediate gratification. I want to go to the tennis club and think all those ladies are my friends. And then you go and you're like, oh, I don't like any of these women, but we'll go to another tennis club, or maybe you won't have friends at tennis. You just go there to exercise, but you're going to find your tribe at, wine and cheese night down the street. I have no idea. But you have to, again, it's like intention. You have to treat it like if this is important to you to go find this tribe of women, then go find the tribe of women. But if that's going to mean that you're ignoring your infant child, your spouse is ready to walk out on you and you're not turning your work in on time on Monday morning, maybe that's not your highest priority, And so there is a sense of, we got to build a baseline of functionality where these things are running somewhat well.
Yeah.
And then maybe you're just sprinkling in some of those other things when you can. Like when my kids were little, my only friends were the other moms with little kids who we did play dates. I don't know if I liked them or not, but it was another adult human. I was like, oh my God, I love you right now.
It's happy hour
so
and bring out the wine and have a little
I don't
chat.
think I even wanted to be around other humans. I think I locked myself in the bathroom half the time. I was just like, I want some time alone.
We were
But,
all best friends with our kids' moms. All of us. We went through that. Yeah,
for
for
sure.
sure.
And things go through seasons too.
Absolutely.
And you need different friends for different reasons.
You do.
through those seasons.
Yeah.
You do. And I think an important point to note, because Natalie, you alluded to it earlier, that not everything we do that's going to get us the result is going to feel good.
Right.
And I think society has wired that out of us. You know, you look at
Yeah.
these TV shows or whatever, and there's like within 30 minutes, somebody just gets
Yeah.
like this beautiful life. Or
Yep.
you look at the front of some magazine in the grocery store and someone's like a bajillionaire. And it's just like, like, yes, there's occasionally people who get lucky and have those moments. But if you think about your health, nobody wants to do sit-ups. Nobody wants to go for a run. Nobody wants to go to the gym. I mean, ask athletes in their gym. They're like, I never want to do this, but they want the result.
Right.
Yeah.
So I try to start looking at my life instead of being like, oh, I'm so exhausted. How do I just get relief? I'm like, what are the things I could start doing in small steps that will get me towards feeling the way I want to feel?
Right.
And if that's a relationship with someone, then I'm going to work on my relationship. If that's mothering, it's mothering. If it's my health, and just know that it might feel a bit uncomfortable, but then as it starts to unfold for you and you start to get the result, it's that dopamine hit. You're like,
Yes.
okay, I want more sit-ups. I don't want to miss a run. I love how I feel in my jeans, or I love,
Yeah.
how I look in the mirror.
Yeah.
You start to want more of that, right?
Yes. Yes.
But it's hard to get started. It's hard to get started.
It is hard to get started. And some areas are easier than others to do.
Mm-hmm.
But
Sure.
that's just kind of where our talents lie and
Yeah.
that kind of thing. Like making connections with people, super easy for me.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Getting down on the floor, bending a little, like that's a little bit difficult
Right,
for me. Always
right,
has
right.
been. Like I want health to be my number one, but I think it's connection and leisure still.
Yes. So, Kate, what would you say to someone who says, I wish I would have learned that earlier in life. It's almost too late now. These lessons that we're talking about right now.
I mean, unless you're been given a death sentence and you got 3 months left, then go eat chocolate and go do whatever you want to do. But I mean, otherwise,
Right.
I'm 56. I'm looking at another 40 to 50 years of life.
Yeah.
What do you mean your life
Right.
is almost over?
Yeah.
Obviously none of us are promised tomorrow, but just think of, if you never get started on this, 5 years from now, you're going to look back and go, oh, wow, I wish I'd got started. In fact, my husband always tells me this.
Yeah.
When I lived in the islands with my husband, the whole time I was like, oh, I don't like the way I look in a bathing suit. I wish I was more in shape. I complained, right, about how I looked in a bathing suit. And now I look back at myself in the bathing suit and I'm like, oh my gosh, she was so hot. I wish I looked like that.
That's
It's
so
sort
great.
of like you don't complain about today. Like in 5 years or 3 years or 3 months, if you take up running today, or if you go look for girlfriends today, you're going to look back and be so happy that you've done that, versus in 5 years now, you're still complaining about the fact that, you don't have girlfriends. It's like, just get into action. Just like Nike, just do it.
Just
do it. You mentioned the whole on the magazine cover. What do you think social media has done to this attitude of I can obtain these things immediately?
Yeah.
And make these changes, and then when they don't come immediately, I get frustrated and give up. And that the image that everybody else's life is just so perfect.
It does. It creates so
Right?
much comparison culture. And I get sucked into it too. I am very guarded about social media. You will not find me on social media a lot. If you ping me on social media, it'll take me weeks to get back to you. I never pay attention to it. Because I get sucked into that stuff too. And then I'm like, we think about the things we all share on social media. It's that slice of life, or it's the lesson we learned after, we recovered from the failure, and we're, you know what I mean? Nobody's like, I am freaking out right now and I hate my life. Like nobody puts that on social media, but yet we all have that. And I think that's where we've really lost a culture of just that genuine community, where, the neighbor next door, you could go over to their house and borrow a cup of sugar and be like, man, I'm having a day. And somebody was like, I get it,
Right.
So you have to curate it. And I would suggest social media is probably not it. Now, I'm a big fan and I'm a member of virtual communities. And I think, but I look for virtual communities of like-minded people and people who have a belief system like me. I'm not just joining any old business founders are us. And I'm like, but what do you believe in? What's your value system? What's the communication like?
Exactly.
So I think you have to really protect yourself from that. I'm not a big fan of social media. I'm not. Yeah.
yeah, it's created a whole realm of issues for all of us. And I can just feel if I go on there, I start going,
Yeah.
Doom scrolling.
Yeah.
yeah. And
Yeah.
it's not great.
Yeah.
But for business, you've got to be posting this much, and hopefully you have someone who does that, so
Yeah.
you don't have to be doing it and get sucked in. But
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I do, like,
they can get sucked in. You can pay them to get sucked in.
and I've got a few people I follow, and I'll go into that Instagram account, or I'll go into that account and see what they're doing. But
Yeah.
it's a very intentional time for me to go do that. I try not to doom scroll or whatever that is, because I
Yeah.
think that's where we get pulled in, and it's like, ugh. In fact, we're taking all of our communities off of. We used to use social
really?
media for our communities, and we're taking them all off and putting them
wow.
on an independent platform, so people can just come to the platform and engage
Wow.
and not have to go through that. Yeah.
I
Mhm.
love that,
Yeah,
actually.
Yeah, me
really
too.
interesting.
I love that because I'm
Yeah.
part of other communities where I just don't engage much on social media because I'm just not on there.
Yeah.
And sometimes, I don't know, there's
Yeah,
just a
yeah.
block for me on that. So I
Yeah.
think that's
Love that.
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yep.
Kate, this has been such a great,
Yeah.
you were a great interviewer.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
thank you.
You took the lead
She had some
today.
good questions.
Well, thank
You
you.
had some great questions. I'm like impressed. But thank you so much for your time and
Happy
for
to be here.
coming. I mean, you're kind of a big deal, Kate. I mean, you're
Oh,
tiny,
thank
but
you.
you're a big deal.
Tiny Kate. There you go.
Tiny
Thank
Kate,
you.
Tiny
Oh my
Kate.
gosh. I'm so thrilled. I mean, anything that's just going to help humanize our experience. That's what I want to do. Like,
Where can people
You're not alone.
find you?
Yeah.
so a couple things. One is thegoodlifeinstitute.com. So that's sort of my company that I founded that helps women just really empower themselves at work and not get overwhelmed by all the things. And we also have something that could be helpful too, which is successstyles.com. That's what kind of helps you. It's a analysis we go through with all of our clients, but now we just offer it, to the public, and it helps you know where you're over indexing on, like, overworking, or, those things that we all get caught up in, like trying to be a perfectionist, or my thing's a
Yeah.
hero. I'm always like trying to save the day for everyone
Uh-huh.
around me. And that could be really cool for your listeners as well to go check that out.
Successstyles.com.
Yep.
And is there
Awesome.
like a little test or quiz?
It's
or
an assessment. Yeah, it's an
Okay,
assessment
awesome.
that you take, and you answer these questions, and it'll tell you one of 6 profiles, but it's not a personality test. Like, we all know what those, this is actually says, here's the group of behaviors of how you create success. Success as a mom, success as a employee, what else? Success as a boss. Here's your group of behaviors. Here's where they really work well for you. And here's where you might over index on them and you want to watch it. And so what I have learned to do is, like, okay, my husband just asked me if I could do XYZ. And I'm like, okay, is that really a request that I do need to kind of like say, okay, I'll help you that? Or am I just being the hero and trying to save him? Because my success style is hero. Am I just trying to be the hero because that's going to make me feel good later? But typically what it does is it makes me resentful later because I've stepped in and I didn't say, you know what? No, I'm going to read my book right now. I can't
That's
help
right.
you.
Yeah, and we know that our best attributes can be
Always.
our worst attributes.
Underused
Yes.
and overused.
Yep.
Yes.
So
Yes.
that's great self-awareness. So
Yeah.
that is
It could be
awesome.
really helpful.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So
Thank you.
Kate
Yeah.
Byers, Byars, will
You got it.
post on the notes different things. I know I got some emails from people that were actually inspire her that are excited to hear this.
Good.
I know one particular couldn't be here live, but
Oh.
this is going to be so great, such great
Yeah,
information
yeah.
for all of us. We're all trying together to just bring it down. Like I say, get the hands off the steering wheel, maybe get in the passenger seat,
Or I kick you out of the car.
just get out of the car.
I love it. I love what you guys are
Thank you,
doing.
Kate.
Thank you, ladies. Appreciate
Yes,
you having me.
thank you.
So much, and have a great one. And we will see everyone back on the second Wednesday in July. All right.
Take care.